afternoon. You're watching the English News Bulletin brought to you by VTV International. Let's start with some headlines. Standing Office of National Steering Committee on the Prevention of Smuggling established. Conference to boost economic ties with South Africa and Middle East region. Now, the National Assembly has received public praise for its work during the 7th session of its 13th tenure. Vice Chairman of the National Assembly Office Nguyễn Sĩ Dũng told the media in Hanoi on Tuesday, shortly after the National Assembly wrapped up earlier the same day. The sessions was amid regional and global complexities, especially in the context of China's illegal placement of an oil rig deep inside Vietnam's exclusive economic zone and continental shelf. Chairman of the National Assembly Office Nguyễn Hạnh Phúc informed reporters that on May the 21st, lawmakers issued Communique number 2, expressing their concern and objection to China's illegal acts. In his closing speech, National Assembly Chairman Nguyễn Sinh Hùng mentioned this issue again in a strong tone, saying that deputies advocate a peaceful settlement of the issue in line with international law. Answering a question on whether Vietnam is too reliant on China, Deputy Minister Information and Communications Trương Minh Tuấn made it clear that Vietnam is not dependent on any country in any aspect, including economics. Vietnam is always self-reliant, and China is not Vietnam's only economic partner, he says. Now, moving on to other news, the Standing Office of the National Steering Committee on the Prevention of Smuggling, Trade, Fraud and Fake Commodities, or Steering Committee number 389, was launched on Tuesday. Deputy Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc, who is also the head of the committee, attended and made a speech at the launching ceremony.
The Standing Office acts as a counselor for the Steering Committee on the Prevention of Smuggling, Trade, Fraud and Fake Commodities. 12 members of this office come from the Ministry of Public Security, the Ministry of Industry and Trade, Border Defense Force, Coast Guard, General Department of Customs, and the Government Office. Nearly 90,000 cases of smuggling, trade, fraud and fake commodities were detected in 2013. Among them was an inter-provincial petrol smuggling ring and many export companies cheating on tax refunds.
The party and state are determined to prevent these negative cases. Fake commodities and illicit businesses are a big concern in our country. The Standing Office will act as a counselor for the Steering Committee to develop policies to prevent them.
Smuggling and trade fraud have a great influence on the government macroeconomic management. The Standing Office will help Steering Committee 389 develop policies and measures to tackle smuggling, trade fraud and fake commodities, protect domestic production and stabilize the macroeconomy.
In other news, the latest report from provincial authorities in Bình Dương shows that all the companies damaged during unrest in mid-May have resumed operations. 98% of workers have also returned to work. Companies that suffer only minor damage have overcome their losses independently and resumed production. Provincial authorities have also made it possible for companies that suffer damage to their production facility to rent spaces in industrial parks. Compensation paid so far by insurance companies only cover 5 to 10% of the total damage. So insurance companies are working closely with affected businesses to determine their exact losses and compensate them accordingly. So far, 113 enterprises have received nearly $5.4 million in compensation. 37 others have also received aid money. Support for the affected enterprises will continue over the coming months. Now, Ho Chi Minh City officials held a working session with businesses and associations in the electronics industry on Thursday to review local imports and exports of electronic goods, one of the focuses of the city's economic development plan. Most components for the production and assembly of electronic devices in Ho Chi Minh City are imported and mainly from China. Enterprises agree that their major difficulty is that taxes on imported electronics components are between 10 to 20%, while end products are totally tax-free. This is a significant disadvantage for domestic products. In addition, due to the lack of support policies, supply industries remain weak and dependent on imports from other countries. In response to those concerns, Ho Chi Minh City authorities encourage the businesses to search for new markets and cooperate with small enterprises to complete the city's strategy to develop the supplementary electronics industry in the near future. In other news, the Ministry of Industry and Trade has submitted its final draft of the amended decree on the trading of petrol to the government. The decree issued in 2009 allowed traders to control the retail price of petrol in the local market, so they will be able to increase the retail price by 7% if wholesale prices jump by the same percentage. If the new draft is approved, traders will only be able to increase retail prices by 3%, irrespective of fluctuation in wholesale prices. The draft says that additional costs will be calculated and managed by the State Price Management Agency, adding that if wholesale prices increase more than 7%, the government will step in to manage fuel prices in the market. According to Industry and Trade Minister Vũ Huy Hoàng, the draft will bring local fuel prices more in sync with world prices and boost competitiveness among petroleum firms.
Exotic Vietnam is an intriguing blend of many charms. This land is where all manner of stunning landscapes await like a visual feast, rivaled only by the beauty of its people and their abundantly rich tradition and culture. Here is where you can relive the past in richest color or live it up in the bright lights of the big city. With so much more to offer, Vietnam is simply unforgettable.
Now, on Wednesday, the Export Promotion Center Vietnam Trade Promotion Agency under the Ministry of Industry and Trade hosted a Hanoi conference entitled Business and Investment Potential with Counterparts in Africa and Middle East. This is a part of ongoing efforts to strengthen economic ties with Africa and Middle East regions. The following report has more.
With a total population of 1.2 billion, the regions of Africa and Middle East are high-demand markets, particularly for consumer goods. Participants at the conference highlight that this is one of Vietnam's competitive edge. In addition to some traditional partners in the regions like the United Arab Emirates or Turkey, there is also potential in new and emerging markets such as Oman.
Vietnam companies are actually have very big potential in Oman. Oman has growing consumption in many products that Vietnam can produce and sell to Oman. We are like rice and other commodities that actually has I would say good potential in the markets, especially in all GCC markets.
We want to find new markets for our products. For example, now we export fruit to Singapore and some other markets. We export seafood to Japan. Regarding Africa, we see this region as potential market and a dreamland for Vietnamese firms.
Economic ties do not come without its own challenges. When penetrating these regions, Vietnam enterprises encounter issues such as lack of information, fraud, or payment issues. One major barrier, for example, is that Arabian countries require that certain goods from Vietnam be recognized with halal certification.
Normally, if Vietnam enterprises want to export to Arabian countries, they should make sure that any ingredients of that product is compatible with the law and culture of Muslim, namely Sharia. This means the product have to be assured its purity and clear origins.
To overcome those obstacles and fully exploit these markets, Vietnamese authorities have pledged more support to the domestic enterprises. In 2015, export to Africa looks to increase 15% year on year.
We are trying to help enterprises more specifically and directly so they could get access to assistance from national target programs and international organizations. Enterprises also have the chance to visit African countries to get to know them. By cooperating with other agencies and associations, we hope to build a more stable plan.
two-way trade turnover between Vietnam and the Middle East has been rapidly rising recently. In 2010-2013 period, Vietnam's export to the region enjoyed a threefold increase from 1.6 to 6.6 billion US dollars. At the moment, 17,000 Vietnamese workers are working in Saudi Arabia and about 8,000 more in United Arab Emirates or UAE. Diversifying market has been set as an important target for Vietnam commercial sector, and the conference has highlighted that the Africa and the Middle East region are new and potential market, which will help Vietnam to pursue this goal. Diệu Anh, VTV International, Hanoi.
In other news, Hanoi's Department of Information and Communications has recently discovered the spread of a new app that illegally monitors phone users' personal information and sells it for a profit. Over the past year, the P-Tracker app has monitored over 14,000 accounts nationwide. The following report will tell you more about this app as well as ways to protect your smartphone.
It only takes about 5 minutes to install the phone surveillance app P-Tracker onto a smartphone. Hidden from the home screen, the app quietly tracks and monitors the phone's information and sends it back to the main server. Anyone who buys an account from this server can access the information.
When this phone surveillance app is installed in the smartphone, all the information stored on the phone will be monitored, such as contact information, text, phone calls, emails, bank accounts. Cyber criminals can easily access the information.
Up to now, P-Tracker has been installed in over 14,000 phones, 7,500 of which still has information stored on the main server. The app's company, Việt Hồng, had made a profit of 40,000 US dollars in less than a year.
If you suspect that your phone has been infiltrated, with signs such as it being unusually hot, a short battery life, or high 3G bills, you should check it with a security company to see if your information has been leaked. This new kind of cybercrime is a lot more dangerous than previous cases that we have had. Right now, we're monitoring the company as well as individuals who sell this app to investigate and propose necessary measures to tackle the problem.
To avoid being infiltrated, IT experts suggest that smartphone users be more careful about lending their phones to others, buy apps from legitimate sources, and install security apps to detect problems and protect personal information.
Now, June the 26th marked the United Nations International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking. June also marks Vietnam National Month Against Drug Abuse. A meeting to promote this cause took place on Wednesday morning in Hanoi. Despite the party and local government efforts to promote a drug-free society, drug trafficking and drug abuse is still an uncontrollable problem in the country, and cases of illegal drug trafficking and drug abuse have risen since last year. The National Committees for AIDS, Drugs and Prostitution Prevention and Control has proposed a nationwide campaign to prevent drug abuse and drug trafficking by providing information on the consequences of drug abuse, as well as ways to avoid using illegal drugs. Now, Manulife Vietnam, in cooperation with the National Institute of Hematology and Blood Transfusion, kicked off its 2014 blood donation campaign on Wednesday morning in Hanoi. Around 200 of Manulife's employees and distributors have donated over 140 units of blood. With a business philosophy that values caring and sharing with the community, this blood drive has become an annual event for Manulife. The company also sponsors community projects in education, health, and charity work. The campaign will kick off in Ho Chi Minh City on July the 9th. And now, before we say goodbye, let's take a look at the weather forecast. Now the weather forecast just wrapped up our English news bulletin for this hour. Do log on to vtv4.vn to rewatch our program and get other updates. Goodbye for now from Hanoi.